Hello there. So what I'm showing you is this ginkgo biloba tree, and it looks magnificent at this time of year with its autumn colours. But here's the thing, the part of the tree we can see is the least significant part, because what goes on under the ground is 2 to 3 times the depth of the height of this tree, and this really is to introduce you to another film about the ancestors. I've been asked to go into more detail, so that's what I'm doing today. So that will be obvious why I'm saying that in a few minutes' time. What I want to share with you is that I'm on day 16 now of doing the work with the ancestors, which is lighting the candle, working with the altar, honouring my ancestors, and doing an active meditation process, which includes the breath work and is becoming increasingly shamanic as I go through this. And the idea is to do it for a minimum of 21 days. My intention is to continue on for longer than that, and so I'm just having to deal with I'm just going to move over here so I can continue. That's it. So what happened some days in on the meditation, because first of all what I was doing, I was simply saying the words on the piece of paper on the altar about we honour our ancestors and we thank them for what we receive are their gifts, and that's a lovely thing to do, and repeating that. Then I went into Ho'oponopono, which is very, very powerful Hawaiian shamanic healing practice, which is all about I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And just to make absolutely clear what I mean is I was simply apologising to my ancestors for having ignored them for too long. Now those of you who know me, this is not the first ancestral process I've done, but I do feel this is the most significant one. It's only been the last 5 years I've been aware of and have been working with ancestors in other ways, but this is really bringing it all to the foreground for me. So this is where the big insight arises, which I spoke about in the last film, but I didn't really manage to get it clear enough, I don't feel. So what I'm saying is, because behind me stand the spirits of my mother and my father, and behind each of them stand the spirits of their mother and their father, what we've got is this arithmetical progression of numbers. It starts with 1, becomes 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and the numbers go up and up and up. And the point is, if you take this as logical conclusion, you will realise that what this is saying is that we are connected to all are connected to all through the ancestors, and that's only looking at it simply in terms of only my mother and my father. If my mother and my father have got brothers or sisters, then of course there's a link there as well, which makes it become even more vast and magnificent. So really, the insight about working with ancestors is to realise that I've got this incredible pair of wings that, as I become consciously aware, unfold behind me, and I am literally spearheading the processes of life as a physical human being, with all those literally having my back, literally connected, and literally supporting me. And this has never been so clear and obvious as it has been in the last 5, 6, 7 days since I received this extraordinary healing process. It was 6 days ago, to be precise. 6 days ago I received this extraordinary healing process from the shaman who's pretty much completed her training and about to receive accreditation. In fact, she's doing psychopomp work today, and that's the way things are when you're a shaman. When work arises, you step up and you do it. So this is all really wonderful, this is great. But the point I'm trying to make is this: that healing strips me so bear in terms of facing up to all sorts of things which I hadn't realised that I still had waiting to face up to, and that has been extraordinary. There's no other way of looking at it. So if my ancestors had not had my back during those times, who knows how difficult that work would have been. But the fact that I was literally connected and supported through what has been a very tumultuous process emotionally and mentally, that's just so good. So let me see if there's something else that comes up about the ancestors. I know that a lot of points have been made recently to me, and I'm seeing if I can come up with any others that are significant. So now I'm drawn back to the image of the tree, and here we are surrounded by trees. So the point is, we only see the bit of the tree above the ground and the bigger bits below the ground. This is the metaphor for what I'm explaining about us and our ancestors. Right, so here's the next one. What about the situation where a person doesn't have any living parents? Maybe they were born after an accident. There could be something like that. There could be a situation whereby that person they've had their childhood, they've grown up, and at no point have they had any direct connection with their parents. Then what is obviously going to occur to them is, but how on earth can I do an altar for my ancestors? I don't have any photographs of anyone. I don't have any memories. I don't know any details. That's a really big point, isn't it? And it needs to be addressed. So the first thing I want to say is, if I simply take my leaf out of the book of the Southeast Asians, who I do regard to be amongst the world's experts in this matter, it's really simple. What you would do if you don't have any information at all about any of your ancestors, you would go ahead and create your altar, and what you would do is you would focus on providing on that altar all of the things that would make someone looking down at the earth feel good. Let's make it really simple. There would be food on the altar. Now in Korea, an absolute must on the altar is not just an apple, but usually a pyramidical pile of apples, and they often have the top and the bottoms cut off. Don't quite know why they do this, but they do. But here's the point. The apple represents eternity and beauty, and this is from the Celtic tree oracle. So what a perfect way to honour your ancestors, to create on your altar a display of beautiful apples. That's going to be a really good start. To that you're going to want to add anything else that's appropriate. So for example, in my case, as my mother's a great apple pie maker, I can simply slip on a piece of apple pie onto that altar. And that's the other thing that us Westerners wouldn't necessarily realise, but the idea is you can put those items on, say your prayers, and of course you communicate with the ancestors as if they are here in the real here and now every day. You say whatever you want to say to them. That's also part of working with your ancestors. It's like, Mum, look at this, I got this award, look at that. Dad, I got that, I'm going to get a new place to live. Whatever it is, you share that information. And what they do in East Asia mostly is they will have an annual memorial. So every year on the date of that person's passing, they're going to be having the full altar, the prayers, and they're going to chat to them just as exactly the same way as I'm chatting to you right here and now. So that's all the kind of thing that you can do when you're working with your ancestors. So even if you don't know them, even if you never met your mother and father, what you can do is you can just start that conversation whereby you're literally bringing them into an awareness of what matters to you. Because let's face it, you are their descendants. That means they care about you. That's the one thing I want you to be really sure of. They're definitely going to be caring about you. Right, so that was a worthwhile thing to add. Something else I'd want on my altar, definitely want a candle, because that connects us to spirit. I'd also want some kind of an incense, whether it's a white sage or a Palo Santo, or an oil burner with sandalwood, frankincense, myrrh, whichever particular essential oil or incense feels appropriate, that's a really great thing to have on. I like to have a feather on there. The incense and the feather representing the element of air, the burning candle representing the element of fire. The element of water could be provided very easily with a cup or a chalice or a glass that contains water. That's something you could do. In Japan, something else they would have would be a small pot, like something the size of an egg cup, with water, with salt in. Salt being the most yang substance in the universe that human beings can consume. That's thereby recognizing the power of the element of salt, which elementally in the Western sense refers to the element of the earth. Of course, you get the earth, the air, the fire, the water on there. Those are important. And the other thing that I would do is I would start really simply. So you might just have a few of the things I mentioned. And because you are going to be doing a 21-day practice whereby you're going to give at least 5 minutes every day to really focusing on appreciation, acknowledgement. You got the Ho'oponopono, I'm sorry because I neglected you for all these years in brackets. Please forgive me, thank you, I love you. That's a really great thing to do. And then to have this sense like I've been having of this multiplication behind me. First of all, thanking my mother and my father, and then being aware they have parents and their parents have parents, and the numbers go on, and how that's how we're all connected. It's like these wings that I have at my back, the sense that they've got my back, literally. And this is something that I really want to have a chance to say. You see, there's a lot of people around today who, relatively speaking, have had what I would call, well, not as hard a time as some of your ancestors, let me put it that way. And this year we're having the big drama about what's been going on health-wise, but you just look at the bigger picture. In the 20th century we had 2 world wars, we had complete collapses of the economy and the monetary system, we had people literally going on hunger marches. It's hard for a lot of people today to remember this, but in the early part of the 20th century, people in England were so poor and so hungry they went on hunger marches, and this was to demand the right to be able to work for a crust of bread to feed themselves and their families. So this is also part of the understanding of the ancestors, that many of them have been through great hardships and they survived. They did whatever it needed to do to keep themselves alive, body and soul, and that of their families and their loved ones. And that's a good thing to remember in these times that we're living in now, that we do our absolute best to be there to support people when they're going through hard times. That's the case at the moment. I've got 2 people close to me, they've suddenly lost a family member, and another family member is in hospital, another family member is ill. It's like, do your best to reach out to people having hard times, because that's what your ancestors did. This is what it is to be human. So there's a great strength to realise that, for me, my ancestors, they went through 2 world wars. And in fact, one of the little quirks of my ancestry, if you go far back enough, there's actually a German strand in my ancestry in my mother's side, so mostly Yorkshire people, but a little strand of German as well, so on both sides in that particular conflict, both sides suffering and doing their best to keep going despite all the things that were arrayed against them. So that's what we've got. That's what I mean about, I'm going to use this word, the word is tenacity. Be aware that your ancestors will have demonstrated degrees of tenacity in their existence, and that's something else that you can tap into, and to realise that no matter how challenging and upsetting circumstances might be for you today, a lot of your ancestors have probably been through a lot worse, and they've got the toughness, they've got the grit, and they've got your backs. That's right, all of our backs, there are our ancestors there. And I want to do a tiny bit to develop a theme I mentioned in the previous film. There's an expression, the expression is, if you ignore your ancestors, then they run amok in your house. And what that really means to say is a lot of people suffer from problems health problems, mental problems, money problems and other problems, and that can happen if ancestors have been doing their very best to attract your attention and say, hey, we exist, we would like our due of appreciation, give us some honouring, give us some thanks, love us for the fact that we gave you the opportunity to have a physical life. Some of them, and their determination to break through the deadness of a lot of the Westerners, have resorted to all sorts of things, and you ain't got to think about ghosts and haunting and poltergeist activity, and suddenly all that seems to be in a new light when you start to look at all this, all those strange things that go on. All these were attempts of the ancestors of saying, hello, be aware of our existence, because your life will be so much the richer when you realise you're connected with us, as we know that we're connected with you. And so really that's pretty much what I wanted to say today on the subject of ancestors, to augment the film that I made very recently. And so I'm going to wish you all the very best, and may you find the time and the opportunity to connect with and feel the love that your ancestors have for you, because that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's all about the love. Thank you very much.